Travel expenses for Computex 2018 paid for in part by Fractal Design. Yeah, if you haven't seen our coverage of the Fractal Define R6, you've got to check out our videos on the Define R6. We've done a Threadripper build, we've done an i9 build. It's cool, it's quiet, it's competent, it's a really awesome case, and you should check out our videos on that. Travel expenses for Computex also paid in part by ASUS ROG. Yes, ASUS ROG, the mini PCs and graphics cards, and ASUS ROG's just building everything these days. Whether you swing Team Red or Team Blue, ASUS ROG has got something for you, I think. So be sure to check out our coverage of all of their motherboards, everything from IO-MMU groups to full UEFI tours, which I know only the people that are basically getting ready to pull the trigger look at those UEFIs. Everybody else doesn't care. So big thanks to ASUS ROG for sponsoring us, and you really should check out our other coverage of ASUS ROG products and our coverage from Computex 2018. ASUS ROG, Republic of Gamers? Democratic People's Republic of Gamers for AMD people, unfortunately, I'm sorry. ASUS has had quite a lot of announcements this Computex. They released or updated several new gaming laptops recently, including the Zephyrus. And they also had some of the coolest props and lighting of the show. And, it took up a lot of floor space. They had a literal red versus blue gaming setup with gaming laptops. And they were showing everything off from the thin and light laptops to their beastly upgradable laptops. So, depending on which laptop you wanted to play on, you could experience, playing games on that particular laptop. ASUS also announced their ROG phone. Yes, an ASUS gaming phone. Gaming phone? Is that a phrase that we're going to hear very often? At first I was a bit skeptical that this would, turn out well, but I've used Zen phones, and Zen phones are actually pretty good. I've used those on my personal device, so they might be onto something. The phones have a bin Snapdragon CPU for overclocking and running games. I'm not going to jump on the hype train here either, so I'll reserve judgment until I play with one. ASUS also had a lot of impressive and otherwise normal-ish systems on display, along with their high-end graphics cards and motherboards. The ROG eye sculpture, though, was probably my favorite. A lot of people taking pictures, it's a lot of buzz, a lot of people get real excited about it. It was pretty cool. Things were also hopping over MSI too. First up, they've got several new models of displays out. These monitors are mostly 1440p or 1080p displays. They've redesigned them so that they sort of snap together or click together in case you want to run a triple setup. This triple setup screen racing, like whatever kind of racing game this is, I'm not really sure, was impressive enough that I almost want to get into racing sims. I mean, it looked really good. It was a lot of fun. The Optix MPG27CQ is a 27-inch 1440p monitor with RGB. And it's not just any RGB, it's MSI Mystic Light, but Mystic Light's got the game hooks you need to remember. So the LEDs can change or flash if, for example, you're low on ammo. So, playing CSGO here, shoot your gun, and as you get low on ammo, the Mystic Light RGB LED on the monitor is going to change. You can program that to be however you want. MSI was also showing off this display, the MAG21CR. The main feature here is there's no on-screen display. It's controlled via software and a USB connection. So I don't think this monitor will work with Linux. So I'm not going to recommend it for Linux users, but I can see that it would be nice to be able to control brightness, contrast, and other profiles via the on-screen display if you find yourself fiddling with that a lot. I mean, if you're going between a max contrast configuration for gaming and whatever, and a max accuracy configuration for professional work, I mean, it's a PITA to use the on-screen display on every monitor, so toggling between a couple of different profiles is super annoying. So I can see that this problem goes away when you've got this kind of control software. MSI is also baking in this nifty retractable headphone hook on some of their monitors. It's pretty clever, and I like clever. 50 internet points to MSI. This is the MSI Trident A. Well, it's an updated Trident A because they've got the 5th and 6th gen Core i7 version of the Trident for a while now, but they've made some pretty significant updates here. This is almost an ITX system now, not quite. The motherboard is built for an external power brick, but otherwise it's a normal system. It's with a GTX 1080 Ti, well, up to a GTX 1080 Ti. You can get other cheaper graphics cards, of course, and up to an 8th generation Core i7 8700. And while the graphics card is not really user replaceable, you probably could do it. but I'd really only recommend upgrading the NVMe, the SSD, and the memory. It's basically a portable desktop. This Trident A update also adds enhanced RGB Mystic Light functions and a tempered glass door panel. Like, it just opens like a door, which is pretty cool. And that tiny machine really does pack quite a wallop. It's actually powering this 32x9, 3840 by 1080, 49-inch ultra Eki Baklang widescreen monitor, the MAG 491C. Holy smokes, that's wide. Let's talk about motherboards. This, there's not really a lot that's changed. I mean, B450 is new for the AMD chipset, so you can get, it's like an AM4, so the most changed B450 board that they have is the B450 Tomahawk. The VRMs have been beefed up a little bit to handle the CPUs like the 2700X and a little bit of overclocking. The board layout has been updated as well. Enough has changed on this board that I think I want to give it a full review, like actually put it through its paces, I think, and see how it does. The previous Tomahawk was actually a decent entry-level board, but entry-level board, I think a lot of people were disappointed with it because they expected miracles from it, and the Tomahawk was just meant to be a cheap but decent board. So I think MSI has listened to the feedback on this board and beefed this board up a little bit so that it's working pretty well, because I mean, at the end of the day, the B350 versus the B450, there's not really any differences on the chipset side, but it does give the board partners a chance to incorporate lessons learned into their second generation Ryzen motherboards, because hey, I mean, let's face it, first out the gate with Ryzen, nobody really knew what was going on. It turns out Ryzen's actually pretty good. Now, one big major new feature is BIOS Flashback Plus, which means that your board is future-proof for AM4 compatibility. You can buy this board in a Zen 2 CPU when the Zen 2 CPUs come out, for example, and it should be a simple matter to make sure that the board's software, the UEFI, is fully up to date for that Zen 2 CPU, even if you happen to get an old board. There's also the MSI B450A Pro. Now, you sacrifice a few features, but you've still got a board that can drive the 2700X pretty well. Now this is the board that made the headlines, the X399 refresh board. Now, it makes sense to me why the Ryzen documentation was talking about X399 as if it was X499. I don't think there is an X499. It's X399 refresh. Okay, so the news here is the board's power delivery system. Holy crap, it's nuts. 19 phases. It's obviously built for that 32-core Threadripper that we saw on press day. 19 power phases, but there's no 10 gig Ethernet here. They don't think that we need it, or the people that are buying Threadripper care about 10 gig Ethernet, which I think for gamers, if gamers are buying Threadripper, the gamers don't know what they're doing. But, content creators and other people like that, I don't know. I mean, maybe an add-in card is okay. It's probably okay. I've got the PCIe lanes for days on Threadripper, so I can just get an add-in card. It's also worth mentioning that MSI's X299 Tomahawk has actually won the IF Design Award for 2018, so it's a pretty impressive board. That's one that I have not reviewed yet. Let's talk about laptops. Okay, so this is the GS65 Stealth Thin. This laptop has been making the rounds and making the headlines literally everywhere. This laptop is a laptop that I've really been wanting to get my hands on in person to see if it lives up to the hype. It's probably one of my top 3 picks for thin and light, but powerful 6-core coffee-like laptop. So I spent quite a bit of time playing with it. I mean, I really do want a 6-core laptop that can hit 4 gigahertz and has a lot of horsepower. So it's gorgeous. It's got a ton of I/O. The connectivity seems like it's in a pretty good spot. They said that it could do Thunderbolt and the full X4 Thunderbolt. It has a gorgeous 1080p 144 Hz display, although personally I think I'd probably prefer 4K because I'm going to be a little bit more on the productivity side and a little bit less on the gaming side, but they didn't have one of those on setup. I think they're working on it, and maybe it's going to be released. I don't know, they didn't. They're sort of like, we'll see if there's market demand for it. So 8 hours of battery life, my goodness. MSI also has Xeon workstation laptops. What? Yep, this beastly one has ECC and Quadro graphics. So ECC and Quadro graphics in a laptop that's not completely bulky, that's not completely brick-like. Actually, there's a plurality. I mean, if you want to go thin and light, super portable, middle of the road, or the brick, you've got options. Finally, MSI was one of several vendors showing off the 4-way Optane 905P NVMe RAID 0. Two important things here. First, it's a max of 1.5 terabytes, adding the capacity of the largest 905p M.2 Optane drives that you can get. And second, there are X16 4xx4 add-in cards, meaning that you can take 16 PCI Express lanes and turn it into 4 M.2 slots for full bandwidth, now finally available for X299. Remember, if you have an X299 motherboard that has onboard M.2 slots, those onboard M.2 slots are bottlenecked because they're all wired through the DMI. You have to use up your precious CPU lanes to get speeds like these. 10 gigabytes per second, yeesh. And that's pretty much it for MSI. And the biggest takeaway here is, I'm a dumbass. There's no X499. X499 is not going to be a thing. It's cool. I mean, I knew that. I thought AMD was playing possum with that. They weren't. So is there anything in particular you, the intrepid viewer, would like to see me test from all of this lineup and all of this stuff? Let me know in the comments or in the Level 1 forums. I'm Wendell, I'm signing out, and I'll see you there.